Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Saturday edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Finally, on part of today's broadcast, we're going to talk about the impact that this election is having on our mental health, our civility, our respect. Samantha Silverman is the owner of Silver Linings Mental Health, and Christian Walker is the clinical director for Counseling and Wellness Center of Pittsburgh, and we welcome them both to the broadcast. Christian, we're going to start with you. I saw a newscast where someone in the neighborhood saw a Trump sign in her neighbor's yard, and she rang the ringtone, and obviously the neighbor was recording it because I think there was a sense of what exactly was going to happen. And when the neighbor answered the ringtone and they were speaking through the ringtone, she asked her, how in the world can you support this man? This man is evil. This man is the devil. This man is going to destroy our nation. How can you vote for him? How can you have a sign of this man in your yard? I think what really amazed me most was how calm this person was. She said, well, you know, it's my right, just like you have the right to vote for whomever you want to vote for. And I don't necessarily perceive him the way that you perceive him, and I wish you well. And then, out of nowhere, this was an old lady. She just started using expletives and F-bombs from everywhere, and the lady behind the camera door said, "God bless you, enjoy your life," and they moved on. Has it always been this way? Because that was definitely a sign to me, a mental illness, somebody becoming unhinged because of her perception what would happen if Donald Trump is reelected president.
I think this election is definitely bringing out very strong emotions for a lot of people. I've heard of people talking about not wanting to share who they are going to vote for, people hesitant to put signs up in the yard based upon how their neighbors may react. So there's definitely a lot of strong emotions coming up this election cycle, maybe even more so than the last 8 years or so.
What has changed?
Changed in general with mental health, or are you talking?
No, has the country changed? Has media changed? Has social media brought on something unforeseen that's being played out? What is bringing on this escalation of it all?
Well, I think social media plays a big part of it. There's a lot of very anxiety-provoking articles, posts, blogs on social media, which people are reading. And sometimes people are spending a lot of time, what was the term, doom scrolling a few years ago, trying to consume as much information as they can in a way to be informed. But I think it's also having a significant impact on our mental health as humans, too.
Samantha, every morning, I have a big family. There are 10 of us, 8 boys and 2 girls. And I usually do my power walk 3:45 a.m. in the morning. But I talk to them during this walk. I have 3 or 4 of my brothers and sisters on the phone. And we're so different in terms of our politics. We're pretty balanced. It's almost 50-50 voting for Harris and 50% voting for someone else. And, we laugh at the stories they tell about people angry, slam the doors, people toss their food at them, people pulling signs out of the yard. But yet in my family, my attitude is you vote for whoever you want to. That's what freedom is about. Why am I going to get upset with Samantha and Christian if they're not voting for who I'm voting for? Isn't that what America is about? But why has it become so personal and violent? Why?
First of all, Armstrong, I want to commend you for practicing self-care. The fact that you are able to take a walk each morning and connect with your family is a huge, important thing that you are doing to promote self-care. So firstly, I'm so glad that you're doing that. And secondly, in terms of what you mentioned before with Kristen about the 24/7 news cycle, the brain is actually wired to pay attention to very uncomfortable information, very scary information. It actually triggers the fight or flight response, which is a coping mechanism that helps us in times of crisis or uncertainty. So across the country and even across the world, there is so much fight or flight responses occurring simultaneously.
Let me stay with you. So obviously, this is what we've seen played out in the attempted assassinations on the former president's life, whether it was in Pittsburgh or what we saw at Mar-a-Lago. First, we could say it was young people with their rage, their feel the only way they can change the world is save the world. You sort of build up some kind of mental mindset that you're doing the world a favor if you take this guy out. And then you saw somebody in their 60s trying to do the same. You know, the question really is how has the rise in anxiety and all this information that we're downloading all the time impacted different age groups in different years, and how do people get to the point where it becomes violent and you actually don't care about the consequences? You're willing to put it all on the line to break every perimeter of Secret Service, every law enforcement, to risk everything to absolutely attempt to assassinate a former president, a presidential candidate. How do you get to that place? You and I could never get to that place.
No, I will say that 50% of United States Americans do not access mental health care. Only half of us who need mental health are accessing care. So the rest of the individuals in our country are not reaching out if they have a mental health issue. And as you were just speaking to, Armstrong, anger is a huge indicator of somebody that could potentially have a mental health issue. Anger could be an indicator for anxiety, depression, or another underlying mental health disorder.
So, Christian, because you guys have a lot of experience at this, you're a director at your facility. What would you say are some practical coping strategies individuals can use to manage anxiety in these uncertain times? Because you know what's unfortunate, Christian? It's not going to get any better.
Well, as Samantha just referenced, you getting up at 3:45 in the morning to walk, that's a great coping mechanism. Being able to connect with people, like real people in real life outside of social media, is another great way of coping. Having those folks around you who you can talk about what's coming up for you, who can listen to you. Volunteering at the local shelter and walking a dog is an amazing way to cope. Dogs typically are non-judgmental, so we can really have a connection with dogs that maybe we don't always have with people if people are more difficult. Taking time out during the day to practice some mindfulness. That can be as easy as going outside and just noticing the fresh air, noticing the trees changing colors. There's a lot of things that we can do that are very simple that can be incorporated into our daily lives that really can have longer term benefits.
You know, Samantha, Christian, I'm using myself, which is unusual today, as an example. So I had a friend last Sunday. I was decluttering because I watched something about the victims in North Carolina and Tennessee and Florida, and I realized simple things like lotion, shaving cream, baby oil, soap, toothbrush, all those things that I have just overpopulated in my house, that I just started packing stuff and said, I'm going to ship this out to help these people. But all of a sudden, a friend of mine called out of the blue, and she just started railing about Trump and Harris. I said, look, it is Sunday. On Sunday, I do not talk about Trump. I do not talk about Harris. We can talk about decluttering so you can have less stress and less anxiety in your home, but we're not going to talk about Trump and Harris today, okay? Now, you and I can do it on Monday through Friday, but not today. And then she and I had this most delightful conversation, and she said at the end, I was been so stressed, and I forget there's so much more to our lives than just talking about politics. Samantha.
Yes, that is such a great example as well, Armstrong. And also another self-care mechanism that you're doing is you're setting boundaries. You're saying, I will talk politics Monday through Friday, but Sunday I am not discussing politics. Setting those boundaries, that even goes back to what Kristen was referencing a few minutes ago about the doomsday scrolling. Set boundaries for yourself on the social media you're accessing. Put timers on your phone and your devices, setting those time limitations. That is so important for our mental health and overall well-being.
You know, now, Kristen, this will shock you because we run a big media company, okay? And you would assume, and there are about 10 or 12 people in my personal space in my office. It is so rare that we talk politics, it would shock you. It was so rare. We talk about the stock market. We talk about families. I've got employees who have kids. We'll talk about the kids. We'll talk about real estate. And then we book the shows and the kind of guests that we book. Never get into what the person's politics is. We get into the topic. And then and when people come in our office space, they say, my God, it's so calm in here. And everybody is peaceful because people forget that there's just so much more that you can do to change whatever mental situation you have that you're dealing with, but you got to have people help you along. You can't do it by yourself. It's not that we don't want to talk about politics, but we talk about politics in a way, you know, Aaron can talk about whatever he wants to talk about. Aideen can talk about whatever she wants to talk about. And when we disagree, it's a lot of laughter. I find it hilarious because, listen, if everybody agrees, somebody's not necessary. Differing of opinions is a fun thing, not a stressful thing. It depends on how you look at it and how you yourself accept it when someone is expressing their opinion. We're going to more on that when we come back. I'm so glad we're doing this topic on social media, on this mental health and the craziness that's going on in this country. But I want you to know, that's not the story of the entire country. Some people do very well in these times. They don't breach relationships. They speak to their family members like some of you guys that not talk to your family members, your brothers and sisters, because you disagree politically. I think that is absolutely insane. Makes no sense. But I got two experts, Samantha and Kristen. We'll continue this conversation on the other side of the break. Don't go away. Okay, here we go.